Welcome to the STARTS4Water vlog. My name is Anne Nichten. I'm your anchor woman. In this series, we'll have conversations with artists who are currently working as artists in residence at the STARTS Partner Institutes. I would like to welcome our guests today, Carlos Loperena and Alexandros Vaitsos from DECA Architecture Collective in Greece, who are doing their residency at Urban Dig in Greece, and George Sachinis, Director of Strategy and Innovation at AIDEP, that's the Athens water utility, also in Greece. Carlos and Alexandros, can you introduce yourself and tell us in short about the project that you are developing in your residency?
We are artists in residence for this project in Greece, and specifically for an area called Poulati. Ale, if you want, since you're sharing the screen.
Okay, so this is an image of both of us in situ. This is the area of Poulati. We are architects, so we've been together since our university years, and we've done quite a few projects. Our projects vary in size and in location, but a lot of the projects have to do with the landscape, the Greek landscape, and it's the impact that development is having on these landscapes. These are projects that we have designed for islands. And basically we see a transformation of the landscape from one that is dedicated to agriculture to one and is supposed to be worked on with your hands to one that is dedicated to tourism, that is meant to be seen, I guess, or experienced with the senses mostly. So it's kind of this transition from, and this not only impacts the landscape, but also the culture, and very importantly, also the capacity of each island to withstand the changes that are happening, because the changes are happening quite fast. So we've done various artistic interventions that have to do with this, different aspects of this. And in terms of water, we focused on an area on the island of Sifnos. This is the island of Sifnos, and the area is called Poulati. So it's on the eastern coast of the island, just below the main settlements of the island. And it's an area that used to be called the Gardens, Ikipi in Greek. And that was because it had an abundance of water coming out of natural sources in the ground. So the area started becoming an area that provided a very large portion of the food for the local settlements. But in order for this to happen, there were very large infrastructural works made. And these infrastructural works were stone walls, because it's a very hilly terrain that basically made a steppe landscape with flat areas that could be provide food, were easy to cultivate. And this is a gigantic infrastructural work. The amount of stone used in this area is equivalent to the stone that was used in the Colosseum of Rome. But it's so well integrated into the land that you start getting the sense that all these things had always been here. So, and this is one of the aspects that intrigues us, how such a large infrastructural work can be so sensitively integrated into the landscape. And of course, there's also a series of water tanks, cisterns, that are open to the air. and they're basically distributed throughout the landscape, and water flows into them according to rules that have been set by the inhabitants. They started as unwritten rules, and usually unwritten rules are the strongest ones because they are integrated into the culture of the place. But gradually started being expressed through the also in the contracts that we researched. So through these cisterns and the system of aqueducts, of stone aqueducts, but also ground aqueducts, the resource of water was extremely efficiently distributed throughout the land, with very, very little waste. So that's the second aspect of the area that intrigued us and made us very curious, and what made us want to tell the story about this area. But third, and maybe most significantly, is that usually systems that we are used to dealing with systems that deal with resources like water or telecoms or energy that are very monopolistic. And the system of distribution of water was one that was organized in a bottom-up fashion. So it was kind of depended on the culture of the commons. So the idea was that the water was necessary for cultivation, for food to be produced. Nobody could be left behind. Nobody could be left without food. So the whole local culture just got together and dynamically adjusted the amount of water flowing from into the system through the aqueducts into the fields in a way that was based on a communal understanding. They were based on not only on efficiency, but also on equality and on social kind of sensitivity and leaving nobody behind. Of course, nowadays the food is collected not in the fields but in the supermarkets, and that makes a transition of the landscape that's falling apart, because it's only a maximum a tenth of it is actually being used actively. And when this landscape is not used actively, then all the infrastructure falls apart. The stone walls start collapsing. The cisterns start leaking, and so it's a moment in time where this kind of very strong tradition that's been there for thousands of years and has been the way that the livelihood of the island has been kind of managed between its own people is starting to erase. It will no longer be visible in one generation. So we thought it was important to document it. So the first aspect of our installation is basically making a film about this entire region and how it functioned. And this film will be projected not on a screen but on a model of the area that we are in the process of producing right now. So it's three-dimensional, and the reason that we wanted to be three-dimensional is because on a topography, you not only see the extent of the infrastructure and how it's integrated in space, but you also feel the water flow. You also feel gravity impact on the whole system of irrigation that they had. So one of our products, we're going to have three kind of mediums. We're going to be working on three mediums at the same time. So one medium is this film that's projected on a model, and the second talks about today. And the one thing that we learned from Pulati is that the reason that everything worked there and that people could in common to all together manage the resources was that all the cisterns, or the large majority of the cisterns, were open air. They are called in Greek chavouses. So open cisterns are called chavouses, and so everybody knew how much water was available. In order to be able to do this communally, so right now the local community does not know how much water is available. They actually are now starting a system of telemetry that's going to be ready in a few years. So we actually got together with the people that are making this happen in order to collaborate with them and take information from their system. They're at the very early stage, so they're kind of prioritizing the information that we need for our installation. They're very, very helpful. In order to actually, our goal is to have a gauge that shows how much water the island can store, and how much water are in the tanks currently. A small piece of trivia: last year, one of the settlements of Sifnos didn't have water for nearly a week, so it ran out. The water actually started to run out, and things for this year, people are quite stressed about this year as well. So our gauge, we're not sure exactly what this will be, working in a variety of directions in order to determine what this gauge will be. At first, we thought it would be a water tank in itself that would fill, but it became slightly too complicated for what it was doing. So this gauge will be positioned in the central square of the main settlement, and we're kind of tying into an existing light bulb here. So it's going to be an in situ installation, and we're going to experiment with these old technology light emitters that you can actually use quite graphically. So that's kind of the second kind of medium that we're using, and the last medium is also we're designing, and we're going to have a website online where the local inhabitants will be able to input themselves their own private cisterns. The location of the cisterns, the size of the cisterns, and how full each cistern is, because okay, we will have the information about the public water provided, but there's also quite an important network of much smaller cisterns, but much more in number, that altogether create also a significant kind of critical mass.
George, can you introduce yourself and your work in a nutshell, and tell us how your work connects to Carlos and Alexandros' work?
Yes, I'm George Sachinis. I have two hats. One hat is with the Athens Water Company, and I'm the Director of Strategy and Innovation of the company. And my other hat is an artistic hat. I'm a theater director, and I'm heavily involved in a company called Urban DECA Project. And Urban DECA Project is actually the curator of the residency we are discussing. And so, but I'm here to have a discussion from the side, bringing the side of the water utilities in the conversation, as this whole project that we are talking about is about making a step towards more collaborative decision-making when it comes to water resources management. And the Pulatis example, the Pulati example from Sifnos is a great example from history, but also the curatorial approach of this project ensures that the community is involved in giving data and making a first step towards understanding better what the resources of the island are. And I'm here to discuss about this and why we believe as a water utility that this is crucial when it comes to the approach of Europe around water resource management.
So that brings us to the involvement of community. Carlos, you mentioned something about community engagement before. Can you try to explain us in brief how you are planning to achieve this engagement of the community in your project?
There's many different types of engagement in this project. I mean, it is from beginning of understanding to their local residents who still cultivate the land, which is just less than a handful of people that, really understanding the system that's there and gaining some knowledge directly from them, because that's the last generation that has this specific knowledge. So for our narrative, the first segment is actually talking people on the ground. Then, for the aspect of being able to understand what is the amount of water in the island, we had to actually talk to different people that work at the water facilities, the people that work, the technical people, the mayor of the town. We had to actually talk to different parts of people that have this responsibility on their backs. We also have, in our stays there, we've also met with the local school, because this is the other aspect, is we want to be able to create something, but we want them to give it, give the ownership of it to local, and the most promising is to be able to give it to the young people. So we're trying to find in which way we can be able to give the eventual running or the authorship of the interface over to them. So I think that at the end of the day would be the most relevant aspect to it.
What are the next steps in completing your residence work? When can our audience experience your work?
Well, we're currently deeply in our creative mode. We're building three things at the same time, with all the problems and all the, and usually problems are opportunities. Within an artistic kind of creative environment. We expect to engage with the island of Sifnos through our installations between the first and second week of July, I think, so there will be this film, this projection on the model installed in the central square. There will be this datum, this gauge that talks about the present. Also, if the film talks about the past, the datum will talk about the present, and also there will be online this interface where the inhabitants of the island will start inputting their own information about their capacity to store water.
I really would like to thank you all for your beautiful contributions to this conversation.
Can I add something else? Can I add something else?
Yeah, oh,
Sorry.
of course, of course.
I want to interrupt you because I think it's also something very important. Sorry, but I mean, let's think about it. You, in this panel, you have a public water company and you have artists. Let's focus on that bridge. I mean, I find this program, you know, the STARTS4Water program, extremely inspiring because we get away of the way we think about these disciplines in Ireland. So it's the artists and then it's the industry. And I think this is of utter importance to see, in order to get this community engagement and ownership, whatever you want to call it, to use all the tools that are there. And again, this program uses art, or actually employs art for this. And I think this is something, this is a great example for us and a great narrative for us for the European water industry. How much are artists involved in the R&D of European utilities, water utilities and wastewater utilities? Is artistic research part of the research that one should think about when we are talking, especially when we're talking about stakeholder engagement and participation towards sustainable operation? I'm posing this question coming from a very large company that is not involved in the project. Let me make it clear. We are not involved in the project. But I am carefully watching the results of this project as a director of strategy and innovation in our company, because I have the R&D department under what I do. And I'm very interested to see how much can art provide in the R&D of companies like this when it comes to bridging the gap between the citizens being clients versus being stakeholders of this vision.
Now, that's a beautiful plea to end this conversation. Thank you so much, George, Carlos, and Alexandros. And thank you, our audience, for your attention. Please stay tuned for more editions of this STARTS4Water vlog. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Anne.
Thank you.
Thank you.